Good evening. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for taking some time out of your busy evening, especially those in the East or the upper Midwest where we've had 70-degree temperatures. Thank you for coming inside and joining me for another edition of the program that I call ECA Live. And tonight I have one of my former students, now a real grown-up live veterinarian who's going to join me. We're going to talk about veterinary medicine. If you're a student who's considering becoming a veterinarian, we're going to talk about that journey through undergraduate education and then through vet school. So since the hour always goes super, super fast, I'm going to go ahead and bring in Dr. Brittney Stanton, DVM.
Hello.
Hi, Brittney. So good to see you.
Nice to see you too. Long time no see.
I know we don't get to hang out, and it was funny to me. You saw. So just for our viewers, Brittney and I are Facebook friends. And as I got this scheduled, my Facebook memory came up of the time that we took her hunt seat tour, Western Ontario, Canada, and many adventures ensued.
Oh, yeah. Not
yes.
our adventures.
There were so many, and that's not what we're here to talk about tonight, but it was a memorable time.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It was a memorable time. And so Brittney is a student that I have known since her first year of undergrad. A little bit, I'm going to give them your background, and then we're going to dive in. So for her undergraduate education, Brittney's a graduate of Albion College up here in Michigan. She has her Bachelor of Arts. And then for vet school, she attended the University of Illinois. Last year, she was the rotating intern at Blue Pearl Veterinary Partners in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And currently she's joining us from Pennsylvania because she is a radiation oncology intern at the Matthew J. Ryan Veterinary Hospital at the University of Pennsylvania. That's an Ivy League school.
Oh, yep. It's a mouthful.
It's a very good school. But you're doing some cool things. You're helping people's pets with cancer.
Oh, absolutely.
All day,
every day. I love it.
And okay, so this is where I get lost, but like you use lasers?
Yeah, so going way back to like your high school physics, we use electrons and photons to treat cancer patients. We typically work with our medical oncology and surgical oncology departments as well. So we might go to surgery first, then come see us. We might work with our medical oncology, give chemo and radiation together. It's just a new cutting edge technology that's really only been around for the last maybe 20, 30 years, and it's getting bigger and bigger by the year. It's really exciting.
That is like, I'm so crazy impressed. I'm just.
It's a really cool time to be in this field, that's for sure.
Seriously. Well, and I always joke to people that my veterinarian is my primary care physician. So good to know that all the health specialties are working together.
Yeah. Sometimes therapists, psychologists kind of have to. You really got to work the clients in addition to the animals. So.
Right. Yes. Well, okay. And we're going to go back where we started at the beginning, but I love that you said that because I always remind every student that I talk with when they're saying that they want to be a veterinarian, that every animal has at least one human attached.
Oh, yeah, at least.
Yes.
So, lots of calls.
Yes. Working that patient care is not just the actual animal patient, but it's also the owner of the patient.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You absolutely have to have people skills to be in this industry. I spend probably more time with the humans than with the animals, unfortunately, just talking and consults. And with COVID, I'm constantly on the phone. So
yes. So keep that in mind, students. But I'm going to take it all the way back. We're going to go back. We'll skip the Canada trip.
Yeah.
But were you one of those kids who growing up, you like always knew you wanted to be a vet, or was that something that you kind of fell into later?
Oh, absolutely. Ever since I was little, like my mom and grandma loved this story of when I was 2, my mom saw or heard me in the dining room being like, oh, like, hi there. My mom's like, oh, who's she talking to? I was talking to a spider and I wanted to kiss it. So yeah, from very early on, they knew I loved animals. There's so many pictures of me at petting zoos, like squeezing in between the cows. I started riding, obviously, at a very young age. I think I was 6 when I started riding. Had been riding for 22 years now. Oh gosh. But yeah, always loved animals. But then The other aspect of it is I always excelled in math and science in school. I took as many extra science courses as I could in high school. So the love of the two together just combined in really nicely. And even growing up at the barn, working with the veterinarians there, it was just always something I wanted to be there. I wanted to know what was happening, wanted to know why and how and everything like that. So definitely in my blood from a very young age.
Yeah. Did you get any cool opportunities in high school even before you went to college? Were you doing like ride-alongs with the vets, shadowing, any of that?
Yeah, so it mostly started in undergrad, but when I was in, I believe it was the summer of from 7th grade to 8th grade, my horse Polo colicked really badly and actually had to go up to Michigan State and had colic surgery. He was there, I think, for almost 2 weeks the first time, and then unfortunately colicked again, had to go back. But his resident at Michigan State was amazing. His name is Dr. Robinson. He's unfortunately back in Australia now, but he was phenomenal. He had to do colic surgery on Polo the night he got there. They said if he wouldn't have gone to surgery, he wouldn't have made it. So absolutely credit him with saving Polo's life. And then a few days later, when we were up visiting with my dad, they were going to take another horse to surgery for a very similar issue. And they're like, oh, do you want to come watch? And Michigan State's really cool. They have this big window and you can see into the OR, you can see into the recovery and induction stall. So I got to see the whole process start to finish. And I was like, this is what I want to do. That was probably the defining moment for me.
Yeah.
Say.
That's awesome. Yeah. Some kids would be like, nope, don't need to see that. And you're like, but I'm not close enough.
Yeah, pretty much. I was like glued to the glass. So yeah, it was great.
Oh my gosh. Well, and then so what's really cool to me then is so you've got this image, like I know where I want to be. I now need to make the path to get there, which I'm guessing is where a lot of my viewers are at tonight. You know, the parents helping guide their students, the students searching. And you went what almost is a non-traditional path because students don't always think liberal arts college, go to vet school. They think I need to go animal science. I need to be at one of those big research universities. And so that was your path. Now you've met students who did that other path. When you get to vet school, does it matter?
I personally don't think so. There's such a wide variety when you get to vet school. And I think probably some of the best examples are some of my classmates that are second career veterinarians. There was one classmate in particular, his name was Aaron. He went to law school, was a lawyer for almost 10 years, decided he didn't want to do it anymore, then went to human medical school. After his first or second year, decided he didn't like that, and then went to veterinary school. So you definitely don't have to take the traditional path by any means. It's always something you can come back to later in life if you want to. I think it's probably easier to do it right out of the gate. But I actually kind of think in a way my liberal arts education helped my application in a roundabout way. You have to get so many additional course credits that actually were really easy to get at Albion with all of our modes and categories between our liberal arts education. So you have to have history classes, social sciences, you have to go up through calculus 1 or 2, and then all of your like chemistry, biochem, all of those classes, obviously, which you can get at pretty much any university. One of the drawbacks, I guess, from Albion and liberal arts education is that I needed an animal nutrition course, which I was trying to find some online when we were preparing for this. And I don't know how many schools actually still require it. I took it online through Purdue University. It was super easy to do. And even some of the big animal science colleges, they don't offer animal nutrition. So it's something that even if you take that path, you might still have to search elsewhere for that specific course. But yeah, I don't really think it hindered me at all. Albion has a great science program, so I wasn't worried about it. I remember I think it was when we were registering for FYE in the summer before our first year at Albion, I had actually organic chemistry professor that pretty much laid out the entire track I needed to take for the sciences while I was at Albion. And then he was like, okay, you need to take this intro bio here, this intro chem, and then second year is going to be all your orgo, third year is going to be your I think I did biochem third year. I'd have to go back and look, but they were so good about laying it all out. And I think one of the most important things, regardless of where you go to school, is you really need a great academic advisor, someone that's done this before, that knows all the steps, knows what courses you need to take, just because you don't want to get to your second semester, fourth year and be like, oh shoot, I'm missing all these requirements and I'm supposed to start vet school in a few months. So really need to do your research, set yourself up for success.
Right. Well, and I mean, anything you do, having that strong advising you know, if you want to go to law school, same thing. If you want to be
Yeah.
a teacher, having that mentorship, I think is key. So I'm glad that you touched on that. And I'm gonna get into one piece of tiny minutia, because this does sometimes come up with families where, so your undergraduate degree, because you went to a liberal arts college, is a Bachelor of Arts degree. And some students come out of like the animal science programs with a Bachelor of Science degree. When you applied to vet school, did it matter?
I don't think it mattered at all, honestly. I didn't even really cross my mind. I never had any of my interviews question it. They always ask you where and why you wanted to go to your undergrad college, and I was always able to explain it easily, and that was pretty much the end of the conversation there. I didn't ever have anyone question my degree.
And that I thought you were going to say that, and I just wanted students to hear from someone who's been through it, because sometimes I do hear that, and I want them to know that the right school for you is the right school for you.
Absolutely.
You know, without getting tied into those things. You want a big school, go to a big school. You want a small school, go to a small school.
Absolutely.
So yeah. And kind of looking at that. So you kind of said that the animal nutrition was a little bit of a challenge, but looking back at undergrad, is there anything that you might have done differently knowing what you know now?
Not really. I think I had a really good progression of all my science courses. I honestly absolutely loved my undergrad experience. There really isn't anything that I would redo, more or less. Like, Albion was fantastic. It was absolutely the right fit for me. I knew I wanted a tiny college with that more one-on-one teacher connection. I love that all my professors knew my name and they were there. They had my back. I was able to do research one summer, which I definitely think helped my application. Kids out there, definitely try to do some research, get into a lab if you can. That definitely is a nice big boost. And I would say they're looking forward on most of the stronger applications. I love that I had the, back then I was kind of more club/varsity equestrian team, but I still did it for 4 years. I rode at a very high level, and I think that was a great standout on my application as well. You really want to kind of think outside the box. And I think I was able to have a lot of those opportunities at LBN.
Yep. And so you mentioned the riding, and obviously I went right to, in my head, sophomore year, organic chemistry, the one that everyone kind of dreads and fears. So having that heavy science course load, any tips or tricks for balancing riding at that high level? Because you rode on the equestrian team, you had your own horse at the barn, so you were also riding, year round to do circuit things. How did you balance that? What can you advise these students on?
Yeah, absolutely. You have to have really good time management skills. I think mine developed even back in like middle school, high school. So I was able to continue them on in undergrad. Like in high school, I was on the marching band. I was on our varsity ski team, and I was also riding the Metal McClay. So I had a lot going on in addition to my school. And then going into LBN, I was just able to keep up with all of that. I was really highly self-motivated. Sometimes it would get a little frustrating, like after the horse shows, especially that sophomore year with Orgo. Like we would come back from a doubleheader at U of M, and everyone else would go hang out, eat dinner, watch a movie. I was in my room studying, and it was probably not the most fun thing ever, but I was still able to do both things that I loved. I was able to have pretty good grades. I did pretty well. I think that year I ended up third in the Cashion Cup overall, went to regionals. I don't remember if I went to zones that year or not, but yeah, it's just really having to stay organized. Time management are the biggest things, and really dedicated. Like if this is what you want to do, you are going to make the time for it.
Yep. And I forgot about the skiing. I was like, oh my gosh, you spent all that time skiing too.
Yeah. I don't ski nearly as much now, but I still try to go every year.
Yeah. Well, and I think that time management part of it is key, because developing those skills now and then carrying them forward, that's what I think the students really need to hear. And I love that you said it's also, if you want something, you're going to make the time for it.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have the drive, you're going to do it. And I guess, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I forgot to mention all the labs. I think it was actually my junior year that I had the most labs. So even though Orgo is really time consuming, you have class either for an hour, 3 days a week, or 2 hours twice a week. I think that's how we did it at LB, and I can't speak for every college. And then you also have a 3 to 4 hour lab, either in the morning or afternoons. And the labs really aren't that bad. I actually really enjoyed the labs because it really helped apply everything we were learning in class, but that is another huge time commitment. And I was able to make it work pretty well. I just made sure I scheduled my lessons and my rides and everything around it. But I was able to pretty easily manage all of my like big coursework in the morning, labs in the afternoon, and then barn in the evening, even with team lessons. And then unfortunately Troy was hurt the one year, so I was hand walking him and caring for him for his rehab. But yeah, if you know this is what you want to do, you will make the time, and you might lose a little bit of sleep and a little bit of fun, but you know what, it's so worth it in the end. Like, I could not have imagined a better career for myself.
Yeah. Well, and as an undergraduate, sleep is optional. I think
you can get away with less sleep way easier in an undergrad than I can now.
Yes. Later on, it will catch up to you students, but as an undergrad, you will be fine.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, and so we kind of we talked a little bit about strong advising and strong faculty relationships, and a few of the things that you can do outside. You did research one summer and got into a lab and had that experience. Mm-hmm. When students start to put together that vet school application, you and I talked a little bit about this before we came on, but talking about what kinds of things make an application stand out, what experiences should students be looking for during undergrad, maybe even now, so those go on that vet school application? Oh,
absolutely. I think we definitely, especially for those that are in high school, definitely start making connections now with your local vet clinics. If you're able to start working even as like a kennel attendant, just to get in the door, just to make those connections so that hopefully you can eventually start working as a veterinary assistant, then maybe well, now things have changed. Like, you have to be a licensed technician now, really, to have that role, but you can start moving up the ranks. And I'll share my experience a little bit. In high school, actually, ski racing, one of my friends on a different team, her uncle owned what at the time was Michigan Veterinary Specialists. It's now Blue Pearl Veterinary Partners. So that's how I originally got in the door. I was working there actually in the office doing different marketing things for NHS points in high school. But I built that foundation. And then once I was an undergrad, I started to go back in the summers. I initially just was shadowing, and then eventually got hired, just doing very low level assisting. And then the more I learned, larger role I was able to play. And then I even worked there throughout vet school as well, just for some extra money in the summer, trying to keep all of my technical skills up, because they do come into play in vet school. So that was my personal experience. But you also want a wide variety. Like, I was able to work with my horses vet 2 days a week when I was also working at Blue Pearl 2 days a week. And then I also was able to get I think it was a 3-month externship at the Detroit Zoo. So that was a huge standout on my application. Not many people get that sort of experience, but they're definitely looking for small animal experience. If you can get equine and or farm animal, that actually stands out more than you would think. If you're able to work with cows, goats, sheep, pigs, that stands out more than you might think. And then the zoo, any sort of wildlife exotics, if you work at like a local wildlife rehab or something like that, that'll really make you stand out if you're able to get in there. But even in addition to just veterinary experience, you also want some animal experience. Like, I was able to help with day camp when I was younger, riding, dog sitting for neighbors, dog walking, that sort of thing. Really just think of anything animal related that you can and put it on your application, because you never know how much of a difference it might make in the end.
I've even heard of students who've started like their own pet treat companies during COVID. And I was like, that's kind of cool. That's a unique factor.
Yeah, it's just, you're able to show like the nutrition aspect and how you researched it and came up with your little recipe. Yeah, definitely, absolutely write it down. Put it on that resume.
Yeah, and make a little money to save up for school. It's all good things, right? Yeah. Well, and so I thought of a question too while you're talking about all of your variety of experiences, which are awesome. If a student knows, for example, that they want to go into small animal, they don't know specifically what, but they're thinking, I definitely want small animal.
Yeah.
I typically encourage them to still go look for the zoo, look for the wildlife, get the large animal, because that's going to pay off.
Oh, absolutely. You never realize how intertwined all the different specialties of vet med are. So even though you're like working on a cow in a chute, you're like, how on earth is this ever going to relate to a dog? Someday you're going to be in class and it's going to ring a light bulb in your head and you're going to be like, oh, that's why that was important. So I highly encourage you. You really want that breadth of knowledge. It's just going to help you in the long run.
Yeah.
And
You never know what you're going to encounter. It's like any job. People need to roll with it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. And so when they get all of these experiences together, which hopefully these students are able to get a lot of them, kind of talk me through the vet school application process. So if they're a medical student, they have to take the MCAT, which is the medical college, aptitude test, I think. So tests that they're going to take, and then other things that they're going to be asked to put into their application besides those experiences.
Yeah, so I'll quickly touch on the MCAT because that's important if there's any pre-med students out there. That is hugely involved in I believe it's junior year of college. Some of my friends took it, and they offer, at least at Albion, they offered courses 1 or 2 nights a week. And it was like hours and hours and hours outside of that class preparing for the class. And then the class was like 6 hours long on a Sunday or something. So definitely make sure that you're able to have experiences like that if you want to go the pre-med track. Otherwise, I don't know much about the pre-med process other than that, because I've strictly been focused on veterinary. But the application for vet med is called VEMCAS, which is the Veterinary Medical College Application Service. It's the easiest way to find the website is actually just to Google it. The URL is kind of funky, so I would just Google it. It's the first one that pops up. It's already closed for the year. It typically opens in January and is open through mid-September. Absolutely start early. Like, even if you're not going to apply to vet school this year, go to the page and just open it. See what it looks like. See what kind of information they're asking for. It's unfortunately changed a bit since I went through. I was applying in 2013, 2014. And since then, they've made it much more like the Common App, like for colleges. So it's a little bit different. But overall, I think most of it's the same. You have to put in every single class you took in high school as well as the grades. So make sure you have either an unofficial transcript to peek at or even your official transcript printed out. And then it's going to ask, at least for me, it had animal experience, and then veterinary experience was a completely different category. So you kind of have to do some finagling to figure out what you want to put in each category, because they do look for a minimum number of hours for each category. And then from there, you want about 3 to 4 different letters of recommendation from people you know really well. I think I had 2 veterinarians and maybe 2 high school teachers, 2 professors from undergrad. I apologize. That was a while ago. I'm pretty sure that's what I ended up doing, though. And then most schools have supplemental applications. So if you have it narrowed down to 5 or 6 schools, go to each of their websites and make sure that they don't require extra essays. Some schools also require your letters of recommendation to be put through another website. I couldn't find it. They may have discontinued this, but I know Ohio State and Colorado required a secondary site to verify your letters of recommendation. Yeah, that was eye-opening for sure. So I don't know if I tried to find it on both of their websites and I couldn't find it, but I think there's so many changes right now with COVID that I don't know if things are going to be similar or different next year. For testing outside of the application, veterinary medicine uses the GRE. And I would definitely recommend taking it once or twice before you send your official scores. It's kind of a strange test, especially the English portion. I didn't find the mathematics portion to be too hard. And then the essay portion, I don't know how many schools actually look at your essay score. Obviously, still want to do a good job, still be prepared, but don't take yourself out too much about it. There's also some really good books and courses to study for the GRE, and if you do well in school, you should do pretty well on the exam. I never found it to be that difficult.
Well, and I think too, a lot of the tests in general moved online this year, which I think changed things for a lot of people. Yeah. But yeah, that testing, even if you don't do test preparation for like the SAT or the ACT in high school, probably getting some test preparation before you take one or all of these tests is the best idea, because there's just so much. Yeah.
And the GRE is very different than either the SAT or the ACT. Like the first time I took the exam, I was like, whoa, what is this? It's the way they ask their questions, the way they present their answer choices. So you definitely, whether it's a practice test or if you actually take the official GRE and then just don't send those scores, I definitely think it's worth it. It's a little bit of extra money, unfortunately, in addition to the entire application process, but I think it's worth it in the long run, and you can really try to put your best foot forward.
Yeah, well, and I had to take the GRE for my master's program, and it's one of those tests where you start to take it and you're like, I don't know what's happening.
Yeah. It's I don't know. It's just weird. And like I'm obviously much more science and mathematics based focused. So the literature section, I was like, I don't know what some of this is. But the more I took it, the more I was able to figure out what they were asking, narrow down my answer choices. And I ended up getting a pretty good score overall.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, I don't even remember what my score was. I know it got me into my program. That was like all I cared about. But.
Yeah, and it's a weird scoring. It's like 120 to 180 or something. It is a weird scoring. I never understood it. Yeah.
Not that we're like saying that the GRE is a bad test. It's just very different than any other test you'll ever take in your entire life.
Exactly. It's just something you want to be aware of going into it. So.
Yes. And I remember you had to write a personal statement because I know that I am the one who read your personal statement and gave you feedback on it. Yeah. So, and I think it was just, I can't remember what the topic was. Wasn't it just like outlining kind of who you are and what you want to do?
Yeah. So I believe I've written so many for so many different jobs now. So I apologize if I'm getting any of these mixed up, but I believe the one for vet school is they kind of want to know your journey through life, through animals, through vet medicine up till this point, why you want to be a doctor, what would make you a good doctor, and kind of use your experiences to back that up. It only has to be about a page. Definitely don't go over a page. There's a lot of good things. Even if you just Google, there's a lot of good websites that give you tips and tricks of how to write a good personal statement, and then definitely have people read it. That is the number one thing I can recommend. Have your professors read it, even if they're not going to write you a letter of recommendation. Just the more eyes you can get on it, the better, just so you can make it as strong as possible.
Yep. And people who really know you, I think that's really key.
Yes.
Because you're talking about something so personal. Make sure that they can say, yes, this is an accurate, depiction of who you are and what you want.
Yeah.
So,
I totally agree. Definitely. I'm doing another one. Might have to send it your way.
You know where to find me. I'm always here. And now that the seniors are getting through their essays, I have more time to read other things. So yeah.
Mine's not due till January. So
we're fine. That's good.
Yeah.
And so once the pieces of the application are coming together, and actually I'm sure this happens beforehand, so I might be going out of order, but one of the things I was always told when students want to apply to vet school is kind of look for a vet school that's in the region of the country that you want to practice in eventually. That was the good rule of thumb. So if you want to be in the Midwest, apply to the Midwestern, vet schools. If you want to practice in the Northeast, look at the Northeastern. Is that still true? How does one figure out where to apply for vet school?
I feel like that might be a little bit less true now than it was previously. I think now you should aim for what you think you want to do in vet medicine. I know Illinois in particular actually had an outstanding zoological and wildlife program. So if there's anyone interested in that, definitely take a look at Illinois. If you want to go into some sort of farm animals, like I have multiple friends that I went to vet school with that are now pig only vets. That is all they do all day, every day is pigs. So definitely go to more of a Midwest school for that, where you're going to get a really big agricultural aspect. If you want equine, maybe go somewhere on the East Coast down to Florida. And I don't think Kentucky has a vet school. Tennessee has one. Over on the East Coast, probably going to get a lot of horses. Most schools have pretty strong small animal just because cats and dogs are everywhere. Definitely some are better than others. Definitely go to an accredited school. That is the biggest piece of advice that I can give. It'll help you tremendously in the long run. But definitely I would also, it's hard now because of COVID, unfortunately, but try to go and visit if you can. See how the feel is. You are going to be there 4 years. It's a very long, intense, hard 4 years. And you want to make sure that the city's okay. You're comfortable there. You can find your little niche within the vet school itself. But there's so many connections that can be made outside of vet school. So I wouldn't worry as much about the region you want to practice in. I never thought I was going to end up on the East Coast, but here I am for the year. I don't know if I want to stay here long term. Ideally, I'd like to be back in Michigan. Michigan's my home, but I also love out west Colorado, applying to UC Davis for residency. So yeah, who knows where we'll be later on. And then building off of that, over your summer breaks, you have a big break between first and second year, and then again between second and third year. And definitely recommend getting your name out there, getting to different clinics. And then if you know you want to end up in the Northeast, then okay, maybe those summers go work in the Northeast or the Southwest, Pacific Northwest, wherever you want to go, and use that more for your relationship building than the vet school itself.
That makes good sense. Which year was it you got to do the cool thing where you guys went to the Standing Rock Reservation and you took your mobile spay and neuter clinic and you just like spayed and neutered every pet on the
Oh my God, that was so much fun. I highly recommend that. It was through RAVS. It's the Rural Area Veterinary Services. And we went to North and South Dakota. I did it between my second and third year because you get a lot of surgery experience. Well, I shouldn't say a lot. You do a ton, probably mostly physical exams and shots, deworming, that sort of thing, general health. And then we do about 50 space and neuters a day. And then every student that's on the trip gets one full surgery day. And then the other days are a mix between more outpatient care and then anesthesia. So I did that after my second year leading into my third year, because your third year of veterinary school is when you start having all of your surgery labs. You do spay and neuters on live, usually shelter-owned animals. So I wanted to have a step up going into that because at vet school, I think everyone, pretty much at all vet schools, I don't want to speak for all of them, you are pretty much guaranteed to do a spay. You might have to split it with another student. So you might only get to do one side and a different student does the other side. Illinois, I was very fortunate. I got to do a spay on a larger dog, and then I got to do a neuter as well. So I just happened to luck out. Not everyone does. So I definitely try to use my RAVS trip as a build up to that. But then if you really like surgery, there's opportunities during your fourth year to get even more surgery experience. I did our shelter medicine rotation at Illinois, and I think I did 30 surgeries over a 2-week time period. So I got very proficient. I could do a cat spay in less than 20 minutes. So being not even a full doctor yet, being able to do a surgery that quick was something I was very proud of.
Seriously. Thing is, I never thought I would hear you say when I knew you when you were 19, like she's in there just spaying those cats 20 minutes.
Yeah. I really like surgery. I thought about doing it, but oncology, I think oncology is in my heart. I really like the field. So
well, and so that was one of the questions that I kind of had is, you go to vet school and first and second you're going to do these general things because obviously every vet needs to be proficient in these various areas. So did you know going in kind of where you wanted to be, and did that change, or were you like, I am open vet school, show me where I might want to be?
Yeah, I think I was a little bit more closed-minded than some students. I came in pretty much knowing I wanted to do oncology. From all of my work with Blue Pearl, I worked one summer in particular, all I did was oncology the entire summer. I just loved it. The clinician was fantastic. I loved the relationship he had with his clients. I loved the way he treated his patients. And I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. And then at one of the locations I worked at in Southfield, Michigan, they had a linear accelerator and they were doing radiation there. And that's how this whole thing started for me.
That's the thing.
Back when I was a sophomore in undergrad is when this journey started for me. But because of all that, I really had an appreciation for the field, and it just stuck with me throughout all of my rotations at Illinois. I'll take a little quick sidetrack for Illinois here. Illinois is a bit different than other vet schools. We actually start our clinical rotations our first year. So we do 8 weeks of class, and we do 8 weeks of clinics, and then we go back to class, and then we do another chunk of 8 our second year, and then we start our big clinical rotations 3/4 of the way through our third year. So we get a really nice look at what we like to do, and we can actually start to kind of trend towards what specialty we want kind of early in vet school and plan our electives appropriately. Illinois had so many different electives. I got exposed to a lot of different things. There was a point where I was thinking about radiology. So I would just be reading x-rays, doing ultrasounds, looking at CT, MRI all day. And then I did a rotation in Chicago during my fourth year, and I realized, I really miss client interaction. I didn't realize how much I miss it. So that kind of got written off the board for me. And then even last year in my rotating internship, I worked in, cardiology, dermatology, oncology, internal medicine, ophthalmology, surgery, neurology. So I got exposed to all these different things. And the Blue Pearl, I got a shout out to Blue Pearl in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Absolutely lovely clinic. I miss everyone there so much. Love you all. Had such a great experience that I was kind of like, oh, do I want to do that specialty instead? And then I realized, I wonder if I'm just liking it because the doctors were so good. I enjoyed spending time with them and their teams so much. So I went through a 3-week period of wanting to be a surgeon, and then I got called in the middle of the night a few times. And I'm like, I don't know if I like this lifestyle anymore. So, but yeah, that's the beauty about veterinary medicine is, like, say I do radiation oncology for 10 years and I get sick of it and I'd rather go back to working ER or something. I can do that. If I wanted to be like, oh no, I'm done with small animal, I want to do equine, I could technically go start practicing equine medicine. It's such a huge umbrella, which I think is so fantastic compared to other types of medicine. But make sure, if you're undecided, make sure you have a vet school where you're able to do those elective rotations and get out there and see all the different things. And there's also clubs that you can join. So get in the small animal club, the companion animal club, the equine club, I think it's like RAHMS is RAHMS is like the club for farm animals. But yeah, definitely put yourself out there and get involved in as many things as you can. Gotta give props to Elby in there. Really good at branching out and trying new things. But yeah, there's so many different facets of vet med. Like, don't limit yourself. I was pretty dead set on what I wanted to do, but I definitely don't have to be the example. There's definitely people in my class that started off on one track and now are on a completely different track, even just 2 years out of veterinary school.
Yeah. Well, and I know doctors do that. You think you're going in and you go, I'm going to be a cardiologist. And then you discover something else that you really like. And then suddenly you graduate and you're focusing on, I was trying to come up with kinesiology was the word that was leading. Yeah. Like, sports medicine was there. Yeah. And I do think, and I love the fact that you're like, I knew what I wanted to do, but still you had all these other things that you explored. So basically you kind of circled yourself back, but now that this is the right field.
Absolutely.
So that's cool. And one of the things that I hear from all the other the horse vets that I call on a more frequent basis than I would like to.
Yeah.
Shout out to my 22-year-old gelding who likes the vet a lot, apparently.
No.
Bless him. I hear about like mentorship in the field being super huge, and you're talking about everyone at Blue Pearl, and so. Do you feel like you've had enough mentorship? Do you feel like that's been really, really helpful for you?
Absolutely. I highly recommend, no matter where your first practice is out of veterinary school, absolutely look for a place that has great mentorship. Your first year out's a lot harder than you think. Like, you learn so much in veterinary school, and then you get to practice and you're like, oh my God, I know nothing. So definitely look for a place that has good mentorship, especially if you want to do ER, like it is nowhere near as easy to dive right into ER as you think it is. There are so many wild cases that even ER clinicians that have been doing it for 20, 30 years are like, well, what is this case? Like, definitely look for mentorship. It's just going to make you more confident and be a better doctor in the long run. And that's across the board, whether it's small animal, equine, farm animal, zoo, wildlife, like, absolutely look for mentorship. It's just going to improve you in the long run. And it's not saying you're weak or you don't know enough. Like, it's really just you investing in your future.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and I think too, one of the things that I continue to read about, and I'm sure you do as well with your colleagues, is the high level of stress in your field. Mm-hmm. And so my thinking would be, if you have someone that you can reach out to when the stress is getting too bad, that's something that you definitely want to have, multiple mentors even to deal with that stress. Are there other like coping things that they tell you guys, or that they really kind of push on you to deal with those stresses?
There's not techniques in particular, I would say. I do have to give a shout out to Illinois. They were very, very good about our mental health, even beginning in vet school. And I think I've been able to carry that on into practice now. They always had like food days prior to our exams. We actually had 2 clinical psychologists that worked at Illinois, one more specifically for the clients and one more specifically for the students. They were available almost anytime during the week, sometimes on weekends. So if you ever needed anything, they were there for you. Obviously, if there was a crisis, there were more than enough helplines for you to seek help if you needed to. And then Illinois also had all these different fun things that we did. We had something called Vetscapades, which was just like this like talent night in a way that was just hilarious. So many people came to it. Like even the clinicians, the faculty, everyone absolutely loved it. The technicians, it was so much fun. And then we had Vet Med Olympics and Vet Prom, and we really tried to make sure we had fun with it. It's a long, hard 4 years, but having a good support system, like I was able to find my little group of friends, and bonus for me, I kept riding through vet school. So I had my barn friends, I had my vet school friends, and after exams, we would always either go out and celebrate, or we'd have a movie night at someone's house and order a bunch of food. And we just really try to be there validating our feelings for everyone else, because you're absolutely not in it alone. Like, don't feel like you're struggling during vet school. It is hard for everyone. And then in practice, fortunately, I had fantastic mentorship. I felt like I could walk up to any doctor in the practice, and they were more than willing to help me through the thought process, or help me if I was struggling with something else in life. Like, it really pays off to have almost like an open door policy.
Yeah, seriously. And I love that you mentioned riding in vet school, because a lot of students don't know that if you ride in the IHSA, in the Intercollegiate Horse Show Association, as an undergraduate, there's an alumni division after you graduate. And that's basically lifetime. Like Bob Cascione, who founded the IHSA, legit can ride in the alumni division tomorrow if he wants to.
Oh, absolutely. You just have to reactivate your membership.
I think he's actually won in the alumni division, but that's neither here nor there.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm sure he has pictures, knowing Bob, if anyone's ever encountered him. But so how challenging was it to balance that? Because I know, when you and I talked during like your first year of vet school, you're like, it's like drinking from a fire hose, all the information, all of the things coming at you. Obviously stressfully good thing, but how were you able to balance the things? Was it still those same skills from undergrad, or did you have to make changes?
Yeah, my writing definitely had to be put on the back burner more than I wanted it to be. But I actually got really lucky. The dean of Illinois Vet School, his wife owned the University of Illinois barn and was the coach of their equestrian team. So that was really easy for me. It's not going to be that easy for everyone. Yeah. But I was able to form a really good relationship with them. I think I lessoned once a week, but then they were fantastic and let me go hack horses 2-3 other days a week. So it was more about me figuring out what I needed to do for my studying. Vet school is very different than undergrad and even high school. I really almost had to relearn how to study in vet school. It took me probably the majority of the first year to figure out how I want to go through my notes, how I want to study in anatomy lab, and find who I wanted to study with and when. It's very different. And I definitely struggled probably the first quarter, so the first 8 weeks or so, trying to figure out how I wanted to balance everything. Like, I remember studying an entire weekend for a 10-point quiz, because I was just like, oh my God, like, what is this? And it was everyone else in my class was feeling that way. We're like, how on earth did we just study more for a 10-point quiz than we ever did for a final exam in undergrad? But it's what just happened. Yeah, so it's all about just figuring out how you want to study and figuring out how your friends' roles and how you want to do your office hours, and reaching out for help from the lab technicians. We had great lab technicians at Illinois that were always willing to help us out on weekends, set up extra study sessions. There's actually a veterinary fraternity, OTS, that at my school, they would do different review sessions on the weekend for all the first years. So we went over histology, so looking at slides, and anatomy review. It was always the weekend before our big exams. So that was just another way of helping to study. And then you'll eventually find your routine. My studying routine in vet school was very different from undergrad. But then once I got my study routine down and I was more confident in my ability to study, then I started branching out and riding more. Some days I actually even rode 2 or 3 horses in a day if I had an afternoon off from lab. That was rare. That wasn't super often, but I was able to make it work. And then kind of quick backtrack to the alumni division. I did it purely for fun. I knew that vet school was going to be tough. I wanted a release on the weekends, and I was able to find another whole group of friends that didn't even go to Illinois. Some of them lived in Indiana, because all of our horse shows were in Indiana from our region. So I was going over to St. Mary's of the Woods, Taylor University hosted a bunch of the others. So traveling with some of these alumni friends, they were also in professional school. So it was a great release, and just to get away from Champaign-Urbana for the weekend. And it is so low key. Like, in alumni, you jump the novice height, you do the novice courses. It is not a big commitment at all. I mean, coming from an open division, I was like, oh my gosh, these are speed bumps out there. But it was just such a nice release on the weekends. And I found it really easy to balance everything. I always brought my homework and worked on stuff and had my reading at the shows and everything. But once I was able to find the areas that I was comfortable in, I was definitely able to accomplish it pretty easily.
Yeah. Well, and it's nice too, because like you said, you find this group of people who are also in professional school. So when you guys are talking about homework, it's not like the undergrad, like, oh guys, I have calculus due. You're like, no, we can talk about real problems because we all have that same challenge, right?
Yeah. One of my best friends that came out of the alumni division, she was in an accelerated doctorate of audiology program. So we got back from the show and we would sit, I remember in Terre Haute, Indiana, both sitting in our beds, just working on homework. And then we're like, oh, it's 7 o'clock. Let's go to the hibachi place down the road. And we'd go to dinner and come back and keep studying.
Yeah. So, and then you're like, and by the way, we're old. Let's go to bed by 10 p.m.
Yeah. But yeah, we made it work. We had a lot of fun. I only did it 2 years and then I stopped doing it after that just because I was going to run into my clinical rotations and I knew I wasn't going to be able to do any postseason. And that was always my goal, is to make it to the postseason and try to make it to regional zones, nationals. So I didn't want to start it and not be able to accomplish that goal. But
yeah. Well, and the alumni prizes at nationals, man, if you just like qualify, like 10th place still gets like a free pair of boots. I mean, it's worth it if students want to try.
Oh yeah. And it's funny, like there was one year I was watching nationals on the live stream and I think the reserve champions were getting a custom pair of Parlantes and I was like, I don't even want to win the saddle. I want those boots.
Right. Exactly. That's, priorities, especially when you're a poor professional school student, right?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, and so I want all of the viewers to know, if you guys have questions, please put them in the comments and I will happily ask them of Brittney, because I am getting down to the bottom of my questions. We're getting down to the bottom of time because she's been so amazing and generous to come on here to put herself on camera after a hard day of work and chat with me. But so you talked a little bit about, this year you're in this program and you've got some other goals for yourself. So what's kind of on the horizon? What comes next after this internship? Is it another internship? Is it starting to look for a practice to join? What's next, girl?
Yeah, so I want to do a residency in radiation oncology. I want my board certification. I want those extra 4 or 5 or 6 letters after my last name in addition to DVM. So I'm applying. It actually just opened last Monday, so it's only been open a week. But the match of vet school, which is VIRMP, Veterinary Internship and Residency Matching Program. So I'm just starting my application for that, having to write another personal statement, CV, letters of rec, all of the whole shebang all over again. But there's 10 programs available for radiation oncology this year, so hopefully I can secure one of them, and then it'll be either a 2 or 3 year position, and then I'll take my board certification, which is for me typically in the August-September timeframe at the ACVR conference, and then from there I will hopefully get a job as a board certified radiation oncologist. Would love to work in private practice. If anyone's hiring in 3 years, let me know. But yeah.
We'll bring you back on. We'll see if we can shop you around to some clinics.
Yeah.
Well, and I would think, do you have another thought? Because I took a left turn because you were talking about, joining a practice and things, but I would think, if you were someone who said, I definitely want to start my own practice, I would guess that as an undergrad or somewhere along the line, you would have wanted to take some business classes too. Do you know of any vets that kind of had a bit of a business background coming into owning a practice?
Oh goodness, I'm not sure. I definitely think it's not a bad idea to take some business classes in undergrad, especially if you have the time in your schedule. But then there's a club in particular in veterinary school. It's the VMBA, I believe, or VBMA. I think it's VBMA, Veterinary Business Management Association, I believe. We can come back to that. But definitely,
Google it, guys.
Yeah, Google it. But it's a great stepping stone. They have different certification programs, and it just it's a great resume booster, number one, going out into practice afterwards. But it does teach you a lot of vital skills. It goes over practice management, A lot of financial things, actually. If you know you have to take out loans for vet school, they talk a lot about financial aid and loan repayment, and some of the courses that they recommend or offer. So definitely, even if you don't want to start practice, like I was in vet school just because I thought they had a lot of great information overall, in addition to their certification programs. And just have a lot of connections. And while you're in vet school, sometimes they'll have different local area veterinarians come in and give different lectures. A lot of them are usually accompanied with food to help draw students in for the hour or so over lunch. But definitely listen to them and seek them out. Even if you can't make it to the lecture, shoot them an email and just be like, oh, hey, how did you get to where you're at? What advice do you recommend? And definitely, if you're able to take some, not like econ classes, maybe more finance classes, because there is a lot to do with like loans and insurance and overhead and all of that to do with running a business and starting your own. I think a lot of people nowadays are shifting more instead of starting from the ground up, building out of nothing. A lot of people are getting integrated into a practice where the owner might retire in 5 years and they might be able to buy them out. Yeah. I think that's where a lot of my classmates are currently focusing on. I don't know of any that are trying to do a startup right now, but it's difficult. And definitely, if you can, partnerships are always a great idea. Look at your contracts closely, though. You don't want to get burned in the long run. Everyone's always friends until they're not, unfortunately.
Right. Yes. My business is the same way too. So I totally understand that. Yes, lawyers can help you with these things.
Yeah, definitely have a good team. I mean, it's the investment in your team is very much worth it. Don't skip on that.
Yeah. Well, and we all know, I think of when I call the vet clinic, I know all the girls in the office, and when they answer the phone, like those people are the front door to any practice.
Yeah.
They are crucial.
It's their first impression. When you walk in the door, how are you greeted? How does someone answer the phone? And first impressions go a very, very long way.
Yep.
Yeah. And there's usually, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say they're usually overworked, underpaid. Take care of them. They're worth their weight for sure.
Yes. Well, and they are overworked and underpaid, because when I'm probably 10% of the time when I'm calling that vet clinic, I'm calling on an emergency call. And I, just seen, for hypothetical example, my 22-year-old gelding go running in the field and fall down, because that's how he.
Oh my God.
Yeah. He's going to start paying his own vet bills, but I'm in a little bit of a panic. And so that first voice that I hear, and I'm saying I need a vet as soon as you can get me one, and they call me right down, that's, that is priceless. And that's most of the reason they're underpaid.
Yeah. And that's another thing. Like even if you can't get in a job in high school or undergrad as like a kennel attendant or a dog walker or anything, see if you can work the front desk for a few hours, either in the after hours or on the weekends, help them out. It's just any way to get in the door is helpful and can definitely build more relationships than you may realize.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's good advice, students, for any field that you want to go into, is any of those relationships that you build. And the last, I don't know if I'm calling these episodes, but the last time I did this, when George and I were talking about ways that students can build networks and things, and we talked about you're going to start small because you're young and you don't have as many connections, but trainers, veterinarians, just, people, if you work at the local lawn service, anything that you do, building those networks and having those positive relationships, it is going to come back. I mean, I love this story. You worked in high school for a vet clinic, and then after you are through vet school, then you get to go back and do an actual internship rotation there.
Yeah. That really came full circle. And a lot of the technicians remembered me from when I was a little peewee, like looking around, like deer in headlights look. And it was so fun to do full circle. And even for some of the veterinarians, actually, they have a really good retention rate for their veterinarians. So a lot of them remembered me from when I was in high school and college. But yeah, that was a really good experience. Like, I know I mostly worked in Southfield when I was in high school and undergrad, and then I lived in Grand Rapids last year, but I still did I think 2 months at the Southfield office. Just unfortunately, Grand Rapids office is a little bit small, didn't have quite as many specialties. So to get all my requirements I needed, I went over there for a few months. But So much fun reminiscing, going back and seeing the clinic in Southfield. If anyone's from Southfield, Michigan and wants to look at Blue Pearl in Southfield, it is a very impressive clinic. It is massive. It is massive in there.
I just feel you probably were like the high school kid feeling like you were walking into the teacher's lounge now, like, wait, I'm like one of you? This is weird.
Yeah. Yeah. Walking into the lunchroom on my lunch break, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. Wait, I'm a doctor now? Wait, who gave me responsibility? That doesn't seem
right. That very first ER shift that I worked when I was on the floor and I was like, oh, here we go. Also, my first ER shift ever was on the 4th of July, which is the busiest ER day in veterinary year. So that was trial by fire.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. That was fun. That was a nice 16-hour day, but I survived. So yeah, it's fine. I made it. I made it through that year. It was great. I loved it. I would even do it again. I loved everything here.
Even still now, you look back at that, you're like 16-hour day and you're still passionate about it. So obviously you're doing the right thing, which is, so incredible to hear, especially, like I said, I remember you coming in as a college, a freshman in undergraduate, fresh out of high school. And then that's one of the cool things. If you're fortunate to work at a small school for a lengthy period of time, you get to know all these students and then they go out and they do things that are super impressive and that you don't always understand the science of. It's okay. Mm-hmm. I can call you if my dog has cancer. That's what's important, man.
Yeah, I'll help you out.
That's right. See, network. That's what we're talking about, students. We're talking about a network.
Yes. Yeah. Build it up. Start early. Build it up as good as you can.
Start early, and keep those positive relationships, and kindness does pay forward. And, if you believe in karma, whatever your belief system, definitely it does come back. I have experienced this. I'm sure you have as well. So,
yeah. Kindness, positive attitude go a long way, very long way. It's really good questions.
That will get you into vet school. That will make you a success as a practicing veterinarian or in any part of your life, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
For sure. Well, I am not seeing any questions coming in. So obviously what that tells me, Brittney, is that you and I are so good that they don't need to know anything else.
Yeah.
I will tell our viewers
in an hour though.
I mean, yeah. So we just crammed in like so much of your life.
Yeah.
A little tiny.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll have to have you come back and we'll talk about something like in depth for a few minutes.
We can definitely make that work, I think.
We could do that. The internet's a wonderful place. I will tell viewers, I will have Brittney send me the link to the veterinary fraternity. And I will post that in my Facebook so that you guys can look into that. Cause I think that was bonus content that I didn't know I needed, but I love that exists and that's something that can help students figure out their lives after vet school.
Yeah. I'll send you, there's actually 2 links I can think of. I'll send you both.
Perfect. So I will get those posted tomorrow. This chat, for anyone who, some of you may be watching this on a replay, this is going to get posted to Facebook and I will get it on YouTube. And thank you so much, Brittney. This is awesome. I don't get to see you enough anymore.
I know. Hopefully I'll be back in Michigan soon.
Yeah, you got to come back. And Brittney has a teammate, Meredith, that we usually see them together when they get back to the state. So yes, can't have one without the other, but this has been great. I do have a comment that did say thank you. So someone stayed with us the whole time and obviously learned something.
You're very welcome.
Yes. Thank you for being with us, everyone. Thank you for watching on the replay. And Brittney, if you want to hang on a second, I'm going to get us all closed out here. Everyone have an amazing rest of your week. And I will be in touch soon with the next topic and the next date for the next edition of ECA Live. So thanks and good evening.